Some of your favorite actors have used Backstage to kickstart their career. Denzel Washington, Al Pacino, Viola Davis, Chris Evans, that's Captain America. All you have to do to be just like Captain America is go to backstage.com/subscribe and enter the code ENVELOPE at checkout for a 30-day free trial. That's 30 days of access to thousands of casting notices uploaded daily. Subscribe to Backstage today, and again, use code ENVELOPE at checkout, ENVELOPE, for free.
Do you know how many times in my career I've heard, oh, this is the one? Like when I signed on to Game of Thrones, I remember a makeup artist sitting me down and going like, are you ready for your life to change? And I went, no, because it's not going to happen. And she was like, this is the biggest show in the world. And I went, yeah, it doesn't matter. I think that's so out of my control. And I never have to pivot off of it because I never pivoted onto it.
Hello and welcome to another new episode of In the Envelope, the Actors Podcast. The biggest names in film, television, and theater offer acting lessons and behind-the-scenes insights you won't find anywhere else. I'm your host, Backstage Senior Editor Vinnie Mancuso, and joining me today is one of the most talented and most undersung actors working today, the great Jessica Henwick. Now, a lot of you probably first met Jessica as the Sand Snake Nymeria Sand in Season 5 of Game of Thrones, or as X-Wing pilot Jess Pava in Star Wars The Force Awakens. Two 2015 roles she followed up by joining the Netflix Marvel Universe as fan favorite Colleen Wing in 2 seasons of Iron Fist, and the team-up special The Defenders. Since then, Jessica has consistently carved out a career made up of massive projects like her starring roles in The Matrix Revolutions, The Gray Man, and Rian Johnson's Knives Out sequel Glass Onion, alongside intimate indies like Kitty Green's The Royal Hotel and John Patton Ford's How to Make a Killing alongside Glenn Powell. Most recently, Jessica became a series regular on Apple TV's Silo. She also just wrapped the 4th and final season, which we do get into, so stay tuned for that. And she's balancing this all with trying to get her own feature directing debut off the ground. This is just a wonderful and wonderfully candid chat with an actor who has touched pretty much every corner of the industry possible. Let's just get right into it. Here is Jessica Henwick. You know what? Full disclosure, we're having technical difficulties. So Jessica, once again, for I think the 3rd time, how are you doing?
I'm really well. How are you?
I'm so good. So you were just telling me that you took a road trip across America to get to where you are now. Is there any particular thing you saw that you had not seen before on your trip to New York?
Yes, I did Yellowstone and Teton National Park, and that was incredible. The have you been?
I've not, no.
Oh my gosh. Some of those colors at the Grand Prismatic, I literally thought it looks fake because it's so saturated. You think that must be an artificial color, but no, it was incredible. I'd never seen South Carolina before. That was fun. But
amazing.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying it.
You know, to discuss the idea of a journey, that's what we're here to do today. I mean, you are in a very exciting place right now. Silo is ongoing, season 3. I do want to ask, before we get into that, before we get into what's happening now, we do love to see sort of the full picture. And I was reading a lot of interviews from you recently, and, correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of got the sense that you are at a bit of at a crossroads, but, you are exploring, making a feature. You're excited by writing and directing. You still love acting. So can you tell me a little bit about where you are right now when it comes to following your bliss, and what is really pulling you in that direction?
Yeah, I think I've always been attracted to storytelling in multiple forms. Like I started writing before I was acting. I would write fan fiction. My dad is a writer. My grandmother was an unpublished writer. It felt like sort of coming home to return to that. And I've been writing professionally for a couple of years, and directing just kind of makes sense because I kept selling these shows that wouldn't get made. And so I thought, well, okay, then I'm going to direct it. I see them all as different strings to the same bow, but I can't tell you where I'm going next. I am in a transition phase and just trying not to overly plan anything. That's why the road trip was great, in that it forced me to just go with the flow. I think there's this great painting called Man Proposes, God Disposes. And I think I spent so much of my life with a 5-year plan, 10-year plan. And I just realized, like, anything could change like that. So why am I making these? Why am I weatherproofing? Yeah. Everyone's like, what are you going to do when you finish this press talk? I don't know. I have nothing.
Which is
I have nothing lined up.
a scary and great place to be. Like, I feel like it does take some time to get used to the idea of being like, I don't know what I'm doing next. And that's not soul-crushingly terrifying. Because I do think for a long time, for me especially, if I didn't know it was next, it was very scary to me. So I'm curious about, like, how you got comfortable with that idea of like being okay with not knowing what you're doing next.
Therapy. All of this is an exercise in ceding control. I think, I realized the other day I've been able to muscle almost everything in my life. Everyone said, there's no career for you in the arts. You're not going to be able to become an actor. I came from a small town. I was like, I'm going to move to London. I'm going to be financially independent. I'm going to be creative. I'm going to make a living out of this. And I could muscle everything. But that you do reach a stage in your life when you realize that you shouldn't muscle everything, and you can't. And it has been difficult to accept that there are things outside of my control. But I think I'm getting better at it. Yeah, therapy and then enforced exposure, like the road trip.
I mean, you mentioned, I think that a lot of an acting career is an exercise and, like, not ceding control, but, like, it's very hard to muscle an acting career into place. And I think an example that immediately jumps to mind is, it's very well known that you auditioned for Star Wars, you auditioned for Rey, did not get it ultimately, but you did get a small role as X-Wing pilot, which has fans. That small character had fans, people want to see it. So I'm curious about, when you look at that experience specifically, the feeling of you didn't get the goal thing, but now you have to make the best out of what is happening. What is that experience like?
I mean, maybe this is a way to comfort myself, but I genuinely look back on that and go, it happened. It all rolled out the way it was supposed to roll out. Daisy is, and I say this in every interview, this isn't like, oh, it almost could have been. Like, no, she was always going to get it. She is perfect for that role. And I understand, like, they released her audition tape and my read was so different from her. And I understand, having watched the film, why they went in that direction. And maybe that's a way to protect myself, but I almost always manage to find a way to go, oh, but if that hadn't happened, then this wouldn't have happened. And so it all is it's part of something bigger than myself. I have no regrets when I look back on that experience. I also just think I wasn't emotionally capable of handling the kind of fame and scrutiny that would have come with such a big role at that age. I don't think I would have enjoyed it. I've worked with a lot of really, really famous actors, and it doesn't look that fun to me. It looks really limiting in many ways. I've worked with actors who have to walk around with bodyguards, and I just cannot imagine ever reaching that stage in my life.
Do you think it's more limiting? And I mean, obviously, this is a general question, but, like, do you think it's more limiting personally or professionally? Because you're someone who, it seems that you jump from genres, you jump from big to small, anything like that. Can you talk about the anything you've brushed up against when it comes to being sort of put in a box by what people want you to do? It's sort of like they see you as this, and even as someone who is trying to branch off into directing features and stuff like that, like pushing against this idea of, like, this is what we want you to do, and you're like, I already did that, I want to do this.
I felt it most in the early days of my career in America, when I went to well, I moved here. I moved to New York, and I started doing the Marvel Netflix shows: Iron Fist, Defenders, Luke Cage. I had resisted playing a sort of martial artist for so long because I knew as soon as I did it, it's Pandora's box, and it's you can't put that back in, you can't put it back in the box. And it was true in that everything I was sent for many years was a various shade of that character, Colleen. And I look back now and, it's really nice. That's really sweet. And it's flattering. And there are probably a lot of jobs that I should have said yes to, but I'm so resistant to being typecast that I was just like, well, I'd rather not work than just kind of regurgitate the same character. I'm very fortunate that I was able to branch out into other genres, as you said. And I've been really lucky. I've done big films, small films, TV. But yeah, that was when I noticed it the most, was in the immediate aftermath of Marvel.
I have such a fondness for all the Marvel Netflix. I started getting into this job in New York right when that was launching. So I feel like my a very exciting part of my life is very synonymous with the small screen Marvel shows launching. And I feel like there was such excitement over the end of Iron Fist season 2 for what would happen next. We know the story. It did not, continue on, because I promise we're not just going to dwell on things like this. But it is important because a lot of our listeners are, aspiring actors, and I think what we aim to do is sort of, delve into the realities of it. So I do just want to, not in a too specific way, but in a more general way, using that as an example of what it feels like to hit a high where it feels like this is what's going to be happening next, this will be the next phase of my career, and then having to pivot of, thinking something's a certainty. I'm going to continue on doing Iron Fist. It's a very exciting thing. And then it turns out that that's not the next stage of your career, and sort of what it feels like to pivot from that.
The thing is, do you know how many times in my career I've heard, oh, this is the one, and I really just don't know what the one means. So I never bought that anyway. I've always considered myself like a jobbing actress, a working actress. I don't believe in that sort of the what is it, like the breakthrough overnight stardom. Like when I signed on to Game of Thrones, I remember a makeup artist sitting me down and going like, are you ready for your life to change? And I went, no, because it's not going to happen. And she was like, this is the biggest show in the world. And I went, yeah, it doesn't matter. This is season 5. It's so saturated with phenomenal actors. And I've heard it so many times. I heard it with Thrones. I heard it was my very first show. I heard it was The Matrix. I think that's so out of my control. And I never put that into my sort of decision making. And yeah, I never have to pivot off of it because I never pivoted onto it.
I love that. I mean, it's so funny. We have so many people on the show, talking to you. We've had people Madeline Klein, even Daisy Ridley, people like that, where we talk about how many roles they've done that were labeled breakouts. And, at a certain point that word loses all meaning, because how many breakouts can one person have? And eventually I have to imagine, as the person on the receiving end of it, it has to lose some kind of meaning as to what a breakout even means.
Yeah, it's all kind of, it's very nice. It's very nice, but I remember a company giving me, I don't want to say who, giving me a Breakout Star of Tomorrow award. And then the next year they gave it to me again. And I think I think it was oversight that they'd forgotten they'd already given it to me. It doesn't have meaning to me because it's just, also, I think you can, looking at, I love Madeline. She broke out with Outer Banks. And that's amazing. And that is a rare case. It doesn't happen for most of us. But there have been times where I've broken out, and then you're only as good as your last job, I kind of think. People forget. There's always someone else breaking out. It's just noise. It's just noise. I think it's not why I got into it. It's not really what I'm interested in. It's very flattering, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a really incredible perspective and a really incredible way to go about it. I'm wondering if you've had to train a muscle to put the noise aside. Is that something that has always been true from the beginning of you're focusing on your craft, you're focusing on the career, or if there's, you know, you had to actively work to sort of be like, that's all over here. What I'm doing is right here.
The therapized part of me goes, well, it's probably sort of self-protection, and that I reject myself before anyone can reject me. And I say, well, that's not going to happen to me before it cannot happen. So I don't
Very
get my
fair.
hopes up. And I just think that that's I don't know, a result of my Asian culture, my British culture, being a woman. It's just how it is.
I mean, it's helped you along the way, which is, you know, I remember the last person we had on the show was your Matrix co-star Yahya Abdul-Mateen II.
Ah, cool.
Wonderful actor, and you know, we were talking about how much, you know, sort of audacity it takes to do this kind of career, and you know, sort of the self-confidence stuff like that. But it just kind of brought to mind the day that the Matrix 4 trailer premiered, which was such a like bright spot post-COVID, where people were like, it was like one of the only good days on the internet in 2021. I do want to sort of ask about that experience, you know, if we're talking about the sort of stones of your career and how you got to right now. What do you remember most from that sort of you know, that stretch of excitement over everything to do with a new Matrix movie that is, because of circumstances, being dropped on HBO Max?
Yeah, that job, like I have time and distance from it now, but it was a very strange job. I found it very difficult. So honestly, when everyone was getting really excited about it, and I loved how they marketed that with that website where you could, every time it was a new trailer, I thought that was so genius. I'd never seen anyone do it before. I don't think it's been done since. Really fascinating and interactive and just wonderful. It was hard for me to fully engage in it. That was a very troubled production, I think I'm allowed to say now. You know, it was meant to be 5 months. We ended up on it for a year. We were shooting that because of COVID. That was obviously a very difficult time in America. We were in Berlin, but watching from afar, and it just felt like, what are we doing here? Like, it was just it was a tumultuous experience, and so incredible as well, because I love that film, and the original Matrix is one of the greats. So it's that was one where I really struggled to separate myself and my experience from what everyone was hyping up. It dropping on HBO Max, I mean, I guess that's just the industry that we live in right now. It's not the first film I've had it wasn't the first time I'd experienced that. I had just done Love and Monsters, which was this big Paramount film, MTV, that was meant to be massive. And it had a phenomenal response, but it's
a great movie.
Went to like one of my favorites. But it got dropped in the middle of COVID onto a streamer. But then you know, some things find their audience because of COVID. And I mean, I don't want to comment on other people. Like some things really thrived in that environment, and other things didn't. It was an interesting thing that was just so outside my control.
I'm curious because it kind of calls to mind, you know, we were having a conversation with Jodie Comer once about The Last Duel, which is, you know, a movie I really love that just like didn't find its audience that you know, maybe that people think it should have. You know, when you have an experience like that, where, you know, maybe the experience wasn't what you expected or the response wasn't what you expected, you know, separating all that, taking that all out of the context, like how does all of that stuff weigh against like how you feel about like your performance, like the work that you did? You know, like does that mar it at all, or is like is the response to it sort of different than how you feel about like your performance in something?
Well, I just hate my performance and everything, so it's fine.
so it's easy for you. You're like, well, that's another bad one.
Another bad one for the books. No, it's funny. I don't actually hate all my performances, but it is funny in that I was saying this the other day. I was like, I feel like I only figured out how to act a couple years ago, and I've been doing this for like 16 years now, and I have just I've just clocked it, or I've just relaxed. I don't feel like imposter syndrome,
That's interesting. Well, what was the realization? Like because what clicked where you're like, oh, maybe this is different from what I thought.
I did this really wonderful film called The Royal Hotel.
Yeah.
And I remember I was such a big fan of Kitty Green, such a big fan of Julia Garner. We got out to Australia. I was so excited. And day one, I literally ended the day going, oh, like I'm a terrible, I can't act. Because Kitty just kept saying to me like, last, do nothing. And that was gone to a shot where she came up to me. She was like, do nothing, think nothing, say nothing, do nothing. And I guess I had come from, and I love those genre things that kind of made up the bulk of that, of my career throughout my 20s, but it is a heightened style of acting, and you get into habits that don't translate to other genres. And I guess I forgot what it felt like to not be having to carry expositional dialogue or really trying to ground something. You're talking about space aliens, like trying to make that sound real, to just get something that's like, this is you're playing yourself in today, present day. There's nothing except you. Strip it back and that's it. That felt really revealing and vulnerable in a way. But at the end of the film, I came away going, I'm a better actor having done that film. That was the turning point.
It's amazing. You kind of mentioned it. I'm curious about this because the realities of being on a set, a lot of people who haven't been on a set don't quite know like what it means, like what a set is. So like around this time you did something like, The Gray Man, which is bonkers budget, with a gigantic budget. And then soon afterwards, or around that time, you did something like The Royal Hotel, which is completely different sort of size and scale. So can you kind of speak to like what the fundamental difference is between like a movie that has like that insane Gray Man budget versus something like The Royal Hotel, and what that difference does for you as an actor? Like how the difference in scale affects the actor themselves.
For me, and I don't know if this is a bad thing, my mentality and emotional state is totally different on a big budget project versus something like The Royal Hotel. The Royal Hotel, we scraped that together. There wasn't enough money. There wasn't enough time. Julia had a very narrow window with which we could shoot in. So we lost days off production, and we just went out there and there was no safety net. And every day felt like walking on a knife's edge. Like we could lose the film any second. And I knew we don't have time. We don't have the money to come back and do reshoots, additionals, pickups. There's such a built-in safety net on those big films. The Gray Man was quite possibly the most I was aware of that, in that I go to set and sometimes they'd just be like, oh, we've decided to not get to that scene today. Very casual, like, we've actually decided to we're going to do this scene instead and we're going to focus on it. And actually, you know what? Release everyone. We're just going to rewrite the scene today. Send everyone home. And you have months to play. And there are so many people looking out for you. It's not like acting by committee, but there is an element of, there are so many people to help me make sure that I look good, sound good, carry the story, get the message across. There's an ownership on a small film where that character is going to live or die by you, which I love. I love sort of guerrilla filmmaking and feeling really close to the creative heart of a project. Yeah. They're very different. I like them both, but I have been leaning towards smaller things recently.
I was going to ask because, you worked with John Patton Ford, How to Make a Killing, I believe, was, very, very early in his career. Roots Maneuver, very early in Rain's career. Something Coming Up, Everybody Wants to Fuck Me. Again, you've said many times that title's going to change, but that is a second time director, stuff like that. I'm curious about like, the experience of working with up and coming directors. Like what is that like as an actor, putting your trust in someone's talent that you recognize, and like what you found has been the difference working with someone who is a bit earlier in their career as a director?
I just love it. And that was a big conscious decision to go, well, I keep talking about supporting new filmmakers, original IP, female filmmakers, people of color. And eventually it got to the stage where I just went, okay, I've got to put my money where my mouth is. Like, let me start signing on and helping these projects get made. If I have that power, let's use it. The experience of working with it's also different. It's kind of volatile because they're not like proven in any way. So I've loved every experience, but I have seen a sort of, well, I'll talk about Jonathan Shea, who directs Everybody Wants to Fuck Me. He's done TV, but this is his first film. And I fully expected him to be, he's quite neurotic, I think he would happily admit. I fully expected him to be having a mental breakdown. And I remember in the last week, I went to set and I visited his little seat and I said, how you doing, dude? Like, are you getting any sleep? Are you eating? Because I'm so used to new filmmakers being you just kind of tearing out their hair. And Jonathan just went, yeah, I slept 8 hours last night. It's great. I'm hungry. And I was just like, that's incredible and kind of worrying. Why are you so calm? But yeah, you just don't know what you're going to get with a first time filmmaker. It's been Rain on Roots Maneuver was heavily pregnant. And so that changes the entire way that you make the film. Like, I really like working with new filmmakers. They have interesting perspective and you just don't know what's going to happen. It's part of the fun.
I'm curious what and as someone who's been in the indie film scene, I'm not sure what kind of answer this is going to be, but I'm curious what you've learned about the creative process, about that side of it, from trying to get your own feature off the ground. Like whether it's made you appreciate something more or seen something in a new light, just the act of trying to get something from nothing to something, which it always feels like a Herculean effort.
Yeah. I mean, looking at where the industry is right now, looking at what's getting picked up, experiencing, those are 3 fairly new filmmakers making very commercial, like those are sellable projects. Mm-hmm. They are safe. They're really daring and I love them and that's why I signed on. But I can see why a numbers man or woman is going to look at that and go, if we lose 7 mil, that's all right. Like, it probably is going to make that money back. Honestly, I feel like I've learned more. I've served on the BAFTA jury the last 2 years. And, oh gosh, you're not meant to talk about it. Fuck. I've learned a lot more from that, watching debut features. The biggest lesson being go big or go home. Everyone has access to a camera. Everyone can make a film now. The information is out there. That sort of barrier has been lowered. People are making films on YouTube and now multi-million-dollar films. If you're not going to take a swing, like the worst thing you can have for your debut is people to come out and say, that was good. I think it's much better to have people come out and say, that was amazing or that was fucking terrible.
That was memorably bad. That was because that means that means you did something that is
provocative, like
not safe.
Not safe. Yeah, you have to make some noise. Like, there's a film which came out, or just I think it's just come out in America, called Blue Film. My friend Reed Birney is in it, and my friend Kieran Moore's in it, and it's a 2-hander made for absolutely no money, a couple $1,000, 1 room, 1 night, 2 actors, and it's about it like a porn star and a pedophile. And it is so challenging to watch. But I came away with such respect for that filmmaker. He took a swing, and there is an audience which is going to absolutely adore this film. I loved the film, but I know that I just hung out with the actor last night and he was saying a lot of people despise it. They don't want to watch a film about a pedophile. They don't want to understand the mentality. They don't want to humanize it. They want that to be kept far away from them, as like they want to other it. I really respect that. I really respect that kind of filmmaking. We need more of it.
I love going to an indie film festival and seeing stuff where you're like, this could have only been made by someone who like funded it themselves, or like, they did not get permission to do this. And you're right. Sometimes you come away with leaning towards negative, but you're like, but I will not stop thinking about that. So it is, I'm very excited about, like, I'm both excited and nervous about where we are with stuff like that.
I know, it's scary. It's scary.
But it does call to mind, the idea of where you're where things come from, where the next opportunity comes from. And I'm just sort of looking down the line here. I think I saw you say that you got, from the acting perspective, you got Silo thanks to Glass Onion, which is sort of not not what you would expect. So I'm curious, how often in your career something has come from an unexpected place, or something does not connect A to B as you expect, and what that says about how a career is built, versus how you imagined it would be.
That's probably the most obvious or the most glaring example of what is the through line there. Yeah, Graham said that he watched Glass Onion and he went, she's funny. I like her. That was it. That was enough to offer me the role. I don't think he's even seen the rest of my work. And some of my work is probably much more comparable in terms of tone and style and performance. But yeah, it's what does it take to build a career? Nothing that surprises me. Perseverance. Like, yes, you have to have talent and luck, right place, right time, but it is just who can hold out the longest. I know phenomenal actors who no longer act just because they can't sit in the unknown for this long and they want stability. It's interesting. My older brother, whenever I get offered a role, if I'm not sure whether I should take it, and if it's something that I think they're familiar with, like a video game adaptation or some sort of established IP, I'll ask my brothers. They're the litmus test. And we were talking about a film recently, and I said, I think it's going to be really fun to make that film, but I have a feeling that film is going to be bad. And I haven't signed on. But he said, in his opinion, the legendary careers all have a hideous film amongst them. And he was like, it's just a rite of passage. Like, it's like, name an actor who has just hit every time and nothing has been bad. They're probably quite a safe actor. I thought that was interesting. I don't know if I agree with him yet, but
I'm always curious, when I talk to actors, because there's all different reasons to say yes. There's all different reasons to say no to something. I'm curious, when you look back, from beginning up to Silo, what you have consistently found the most gratifying reason to say yes for. Like, have you found saying yes for the opportunity to collaborate with a certain director? Maybe it's like you love the script, but you weren't sure about the director. Like, what has you found the most consistently gratifying reason to say yes to something is?
I have to be behind the script as a whole. It's very rarely about my character. It's usually like, can I get behind that piece of art? And also, is the person making it an asshole? Like, I just can't do that anymore. That's a hard no for me. I've just done it too often, and it never, for me, even if you're on a great script, if the person making it is bad, actively bad, I think it kills the project. I won't be as bold with my choices. I'll be self-conscious. Like, I'm not the kind of person that thrives in a really volatile experience. I hate arguments. I'm much more likely to just go, okay, this is an argument happening now. I'm going to leave the room and I'll come back in 15 minutes. Like, I don't want to have a discussion when it's heated. I don't enjoy it, and I don't communicate to the best of my ability. I'm that person that walks away and then in the shower, I'm like, I should have said this, and I should have said this, and I should have said this. Like, when I'm in that state, my faculties, like, I'm not my best. So that is a huge part of the decision of whether I say yes to something.
I think that, again, people that are a little outside of the industry like that, they think there's obvious factors, but that's a period of your life where you have to be working intimately with somebody, and it's just not worth it.
You don't get that time back.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I'm old and gray, touch wood, I know I'm not going to be like, I'm really glad I suffered through that toxic behavior to make that film. No, I'm going to be like, oh, I wasted a year. I wasted 2 years. And for me, especially post-directing, the way I see the director is they're my fucking hero. Like I'm a vessel for them. The way I approach scripts now is, what do you want to say? What do you want me to get out of the scene? Like, I'm whatever you need, because I know the director's the only person who understands everything that's going on. So why would I want to get behind someone who I'm like, I just don't respect your opinion?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is interesting that you've worked with such a wide range of directors. We've already kind of discussed it, but there's new directors, there's directors like Lana Wachowski and Rian Johnson, Sofia Coppola. When you look at the totality of all that, is there a particular direction or something that really stuck with you as like that's what I like a director to do, like that really like solidified it for you?
There are things which I've taken from each of them. I would say more in as a director, from their directing style. Like Ryan, he loves to fill a frame. So there's always this different story that you can be tracking in every, like he loved a shot where all of the suspects were all in it. And, there was 7 of us. So it's a stacked frame. I love that. Something that Lana did that I went, I'm going to use that, is I wasn't really familiar with rolling takes. She would just roll over and over and over. 15-minute takes. Some people hate that. I enjoy working like that. And as a director, I appreciate it. In terms of direction, the only one that's coming to mind is Kitty Green telling me to stop doing anything. Let me think.
I mean, it can be helpful. I mean, I think that's the strangeness of on-camera acting, is sometimes the director is like, I need less because I'm seeing, it doesn't feel like it, but I'm seeing too much. It never feels like it.
Well, there's a great video essay about Hitchcock and just how much your perspective as the audience changes if it's a shot reverse shot. Your experience, you're going to project so much depending on what that reverse shot is, that you almost need a blank slate so that we can project whatever we think you're thinking. And there's a fine line. Sometimes I watch a film and I go, wow, they're just nothing happening. You don't want to feel like that, but honestly, I think Kitty's direction was the best direction I've received. I can't think of, nothing else is coming to mind.
No, that's amazing. Before we wrap up real quickly, I know that you are filming or were recently filming the 4th season of Silo.
We finished it.
I'm curious, having sort of living in the future right now, like 3 is out, 4 that's the end of it. What you saw about the totality of the show now that it's over, having seen it, that has made that a special project. You joining season 3 or season 2, end of season 2, you're in season 3, season 4. Now that the show is over in your mind, what made that show a special part of your career?
I signed on for the appeal of having a finite story and knowing it's going to end, and 4, it was closed. I really respect shows which do that. But I signed on for my final episode in season 4. All of that for me was just build up to that episode. It's the most I have ever been challenged, the furthest I've pushed myself as an actor. I did things on that it takes a lot for me to be scared now. Like, I'm very rarely nervous on set. And what makes me so happy is that in the past year, I've been nervous twice. Once is on Roots Maneuver, going to set and going, I have to sing and perform in front of a crowd today. I've never done that. Or I've not done that since I was, a kid in extracurricular drama class. And the other time was going to Silo. Season 4, I genuinely wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it. And what I realized was I had no choice. And so therefore I did it. Like, the sort of inevitability of it really worked. Thank God. Yeah, I can't say much more without spoiling the story, but I got to explore emotions that I'd never seen. I got to ask myself questions in my personal life that I had probably avoided asking myself. It was confronting. Yes.
That is a hell of a tease, and I think there's a lot of people who are very excited about that. I do just want to ask before we wrap up. I do know what it's like, or I know how what it is to talk about yourself for 45 minutes. So I do want to sort of ask you, as we come in here, is there a performance you've seen recently that really inspired you, or just you saw something in that you thought was special? actor to actor?
I just watched The Invite and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was so fun. I thought Olivia did such a good job. This is going to be really random, but if you've seen the film, hopefully you agree with me. There's a shot in there that I love it for her performance and the direction. And it's Olivia squatting down by the oven, talking about the cheese souffle, and her eyeline is almost to camera, and she just goes, "Do you know how hard it is to do this?" So I was cackling in the theater. I thought it was really funny. Yeah, that's the first thing that's coming to mind. Also, Ryan Gosling, lovely guy, loved working with him. But I watched Project Hail Mary a couple months ago, and I just thought, what a marvelous performance. We were, putty in his hands. He's so talented and likable and watchable. And then lastly, I'm a little bit behind, but I've been watching Widow's Bay, and I'm not familiar with the actress's name. She plays the secretary.
It's either Cato Flynn.
Yes, yes, that's it.
Yeah,
wonderful. She's wonderful. She's so, just what an interesting, wonderful, strangely relatable performance. She took some swings. I really enjoyed it, or I am really enjoying it. Yeah, those are 3 performances that I've seen recently. Penelope Cruz in The Invite. So sexy, so wonderful, so charming. Yes, that's it.
I love that. Great 3, great 4. That's a good 4. That's incredible choices. Jessica, this was wonderful. I could have kept talking. Thank you for bearing with the technical difficulties, but we got through it, and this was such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Thanks, as always, to our brilliant producer, Jamie Muffett, and to the whole team at Backstage, Samantha Sherlock, Mark Stinson, Caitlin Watkins, and of course, Kasey Howe. Visit Backstage.com, and don't forget, you can subscribe to Backstage with code ENVELOPE at checkout for a free trial. 100% free, you simply cannot beat that. For more exclusive content, find us on Facebook and Twitter at In The Envelope, and subscribe, share, and leave a comment. Who should we interview next? Let us know. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time for another peek in the envelope.